Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to listen to me very carefully. The silent power of self-focus is one of the most underestimated forces in life. Most people spend their days scattering their attention outward, chasing approval, fighting for recognition, and attempting to control how others perceive them. Yet, the moment you decide to withdraw your energy from that endless chase and direct it toward yourself, you step into a form of strength that very few ever discover. This power doesn't shout, it doesn't need to announce itself, and it certainly doesn't beg for acknowledgement. Instead, it grows quietly, invisibly, beneath the surface, like roots spreading deep into the ground long before the tree ever reaches the sky. When you focus on yourself, you create an inner stillness that resists the chaos of the world. Most people are pulled in 100 different directions, reacting to every opinion, every criticism, and every expectation placed upon them. But when you learn to anchor your attention within, you become unshakable. The noise of others begins to lose its grip on you because your sense of worth no longer comes from their recognition. That's the silent part. It isn't about proving your strength to anyone. It's about knowing deep within that you carry everything you need already. This power is subtle but unstoppable. Self-focus works the same way. When you stop scattering yourself across the demands of others and instead concentrate your energy on growth, discipline, and clarity, you naturally begin to radiate an influence that others cannot ignore. People sense when you are no longer desperate for their approval. They sense when your silence is not weakness, but strength. And this unsettles them because most people have built their lives on the shaky ground of external validation. The silent power of self-focus also dismantles fear. Fear thrives when your attention is outward, on rejection, on judgment, on whether you're good enough for someone else's standards. But when your gaze turns inward, when your energy is devoted to becoming sharper, stronger, more resilient, fear begins to fade. You realize that the only competition worth having is with yourself. You stop worrying about being better than them and instead commit to being better than you were yesterday. This creates an unstoppable momentum that grows quietly, unnoticed by the crowd, until it suddenly becomes undeniable. Think of the moments in history when individuals transformed their lives, not by shouting for recognition, but by silently mastering their craft. Great thinkers, inventors, and leaders did not waste their energy convincing others of their potential. They poured it into becoming extraordinary. And then, when the results finally emerged, the world had no choice but to pay attention. That is the essence of focusing on yourself. The patience to work in silence and the wisdom to let your progress speak louder than your words ever could. There is also freedom in this kind of self-focus. Imagine no longer being chained to what others think of you. Imagine being able to move through life with calm certainty, knowing that you don't have to explain yourself, defend yourself, or prove yourself. When you focus inward, you begin to operate from a place of self-knowledge. You know who you are. You know what you're building. And that inner clarity is more powerful than any external approval could ever be. But here's the paradox. The quieter you become, the more others notice. They can't help it. Human beings are drawn to mystery. When you no longer explain yourself, when you no longer compete for their attention, you force them to wonder. Your silence becomes louder than any words you could speak. Your self-focus creates an aura that unsettles and inspires at the same time. People will whisper, speculate, and wonder what you're building in the quiet. And while they're busy guessing, you're busy growing. The silent power of self-focus is not about isolation or arrogance. It's about directing your limited energy toward the one thing you truly control, yourself. It's about discipline, clarity, and the decision to withdraw from the endless performance of proving your worth to others. When you live this way, you begin to embody a kind of calm strength that no one can take from you. And in that silence, you realize something profound. You no longer need the world to notice you, because your very existence, your transformation, makes enough noise without a single word spoken. That is why self-focus is power. Not the loud, aggressive power that demands recognition, but the silent, unshakable force that reshapes everything around you without ever announcing its presence. It is the kind of power that grows in the dark, moves in silence, and reveals itself only when it is fully ready. By then, no one can deny it. Freedom from validation is one of the deepest shifts a human being can ever experience. For most of life, we are conditioned to crave approval. From childhood, we are praised for good behavior, rewarded for high grades, and punished when we step out of line. Slowly, without realizing it, we begin to shape ourselves according to the expectations of others. We measure our worth by their smiles, their applause, or their acceptance. We learn to ask silently, am I good enough for you? Do you see me? Do I matter? And this becomes the prison we live in, the prison of needing validation to feel alive. But true freedom begins when you recognize that you were never meant to live according to their script. The moment you stop performing for applause, you reclaim your life. Validation is a drug. It gives a temporary high, but it also creates dependence. If people cheer, you feel powerful. If they stay silent, you feel small. If they criticize, you feel broken. And so you become a slave to their shifting moods. But what if you refuse to play that game? What if you decided that your value is not determined by their voices, but by your own quiet certainty? That is where freedom begins. Imagine standing in a room where everyone is whispering about you. Some are praising you, some are criticizing, some are doubting. If you live for validation, every whisper pulls you in a different direction. Your peace is stolen by the noise of their opinions. But if you have freed yourself, you stand calm in that room, untouched by their chatter. Their words lose weight because you no longer need them to confirm what you already know about yourself. That is freedom, the kind that allows you to walk away from the applause and still feel complete. The need for validation is a subtle form of control. It ties you to the desires and expectations of others, making you a puppet of their approval. You may think you're free, but as long as you live for their recognition, you are chained. You adjust your actions, your dreams, even your identity to fit into the mold they accept. And in doing so, you betray yourself. The tragedy is that many people live their entire lives this way. Successful in appearance, admired by many, but hollow inside. Because everything they built was for the eyes of others, not for their own truth. Freedom from validation does not mean rejecting all connection. It does not mean becoming indifferent to people or closing yourself off from love. It means that love, recognition, and praise become bonuses, not necessities. They add to your life but do not define it. You are no longer starving for attention. Instead, you are nourished by self-respect. You are no longer enslaved to applause. Instead, you are guided by your own compass. When you reach this point, you stop asking, do they like me? And begin asking, am I living in alignment with my deepest self? There is a profound strength in walking through the world with nothing to prove. When you don't need to prove your worth, you conserve your energy for what truly matters. Your growth, your peace, your craft, your purpose. Most people waste endless hours polishing their image for others to admire. They curate their lives, carefully displaying what looks good while hiding what is real. But when you are free from validation, you live openly and authentically without fear of how it will be received. And that authenticity is far more magnetic than any performance for approval could ever be. This freedom also changes how you respond to criticism. For someone still addicted to validation, criticism feels like death. A single negative word can ruin their confidence. But for someone free from validation, criticism is simply information. It may be useful, it may be irrelevant, but it no longer has the power to crush them. They can take what helps and discard the rest without being shaken. And in this, they discover something powerful. The opinions of others are mirrors of their own perspectives, not absolute truths about who you are. The irony is that once you stop seeking validation, people begin to respect you more. They sense the independence, the unshakable center within you. They realize you are not desperate for their approval, and that makes them curious, even drawn to you. But by then, their recognition is no longer your fuel. It is simply an echo of what you already know. You are not hungry for it, and that very lack of hunger makes you strong. The path to freedom from validation is not easy. It requires stripping away layers of conditioning, facing the fear of rejection, and learning to stand alone. But the reward is priceless. It is the ability to live your life on your own terms, to pursue what truly matters to you, and to feel whole without applause. It is the quiet strength of knowing that you are enough, not because they said so, but because you finally believe it. To live free from validation is to live authentically. It is to step out of the performance and into your truth. It is to no longer live as a reflection of what they want, but as an expression of who you truly are. And when you reach that place, something extraordinary happens. You no longer chase their approval, and instead, they begin to wonder how you found such peace. Mystery builds strength in a way that noise never can. Most people believe that to be respected, admired, or taken seriously, they must constantly display their progress, explain their decisions, and defend their choices. They reveal every step, every plan, every intention, as though the world is entitled to an explanation. Yet, there is a timeless power in withholding, in allowing your growth to remain unseen until it becomes undeniable. Mystery is not about hiding in fear. It is about reserving your energy, cultivating depth, and allowing others to wonder rather than giving them answers. When you live with mystery, you create space around yourself that others cannot easily penetrate. People are accustomed to predictability. They expect you to reveal your next move, to justify your actions, to explain yourself. When you refuse, they are left in the dark, unsettled and curious. And in that curiosity lies your strength. Because mystery is magnetic, it draws attention without effort. It is the silence that compels others to lean closer, the calm that makes them uneasy, the absence of explanation that forces them to imagine. And often what they imagine about you is far greater than anything you could have said aloud. The reason mystery builds strength is because it signals control. To reveal everything is to give away your power. To withhold is to show that you are not desperate to be understood. You are content to let your actions speak when the time is right. This restraint, this refusal to overshare, communicates something profound. You are not living for their approval. You are not shaped by their curiosity. You are guided by something deeper. And people, sensing this independence, cannot help but respect it, even if it confuses them. Think about the most powerful figures in history. They were never the ones shouting constantly about their plans. They were the ones who carried an air of enigma, who let results appear suddenly, catching others off guard. Their mystery was not weakness, it was strength in disguise. By keeping their intentions veiled, they maintained control over their narrative. They understood that silence forces others to watch, to wait, to wonder. And in that wondering, power grows. There is also a psychological truth here. People are naturally drawn to what they cannot fully grasp. The unknown has always carried a magnetic pull. When you live in mystery, you step into that space of fascination. Others begin to project their own ideas onto you. They imagine your strength, your discipline, your vision, often exaggerating it far beyond reality. And in their uncertainty, your presence grows larger in their minds. Mystery multiplies your perceived strength without you lifting a finger. But mystery is not only for others, it strengthens you internally as well. When you stop explaining yourself, you free yourself from the exhausting need to justify every decision. You conserve your energy for what truly matters, your growth, your work, your peace. You no longer waste hours crafting explanations or seeking approval. Instead, you channel that energy into building, into becoming. And as you grow in silence, your confidence deepens because you no longer rely on others to validate your progress. You know what you are becoming, and that is enough. Mystery also teaches patience. In a world obsessed with instant recognition, the ability to withhold and wait is a mark of great strength. It means you trust the process enough not to broadcast it prematurely. It means you value substance over show, reality over image. This patience hardens you, makes you resilient, and ensures that when your results finally appear, they are undeniable, leaving no room for doubt. Of course, mystery will unsettle people. They will question you, demand explanations, and even accuse you of arrogance. But that is only because your silence exposes their insecurity. They are so accustomed to others justifying themselves that your refusal feels threatening. Yet, in the long run, that very refusal is what sets you apart. Because while they are busy talking, explaining, and proving, you are busy building quietly, preparing to surprise them all. Living with mystery does not mean you isolate yourself. It does not mean you hide or withdraw completely. It means you share selectively, intentionally, with purpose. You reveal what is necessary, but you never give away everything. You remain unpredictable, not because you want to confuse others, but because you know your energy is too valuable to be scattered carelessly. This balance between presence and reserve, openness and silence, is where true strength is found. Mystery builds strength because it creates contrast. In a world where everyone is constantly broadcasting, those who remain quiet stand out. In a culture where everyone is desperate to be understood, those who remain enigmatic command attention. And in a time when people measure worth by how much they can display, those who hold back create a power that cannot be ignored. To live with mystery is to understand that you do not need to explain your journey. You do not need to prove your worth. You do not need to reveal your every thought. Your growth will reveal itself in time. And when it does, it will speak louder than words ever could. Until then, let them wonder. Every ounce of energy you spend worrying about others is an ounce of energy stolen from your own growth. Energy is the most precious currency of life, and yet most people squander it by scattering their attention outward. They invest themselves in gossip, in endless comparisons, in trying to change minds that will never be changed. They pour their strength into defending themselves, explaining themselves, and fighting battles that do not even matter. In the process, they weaken the one place where energy is most needed, the self. The truth is simple. Whatever you give attention to, you feed. And if you keep feeding the noise of others, you starve your own potential. When you decide to focus your energy inward, something profound begins to shift. Instead of wasting your hours proving your worth, you begin to build it. Instead of reacting to every opinion, you learn to cultivate clarity. The same force that was once drained by distractions becomes the fuel for transformation. You realize that all along, the energy you gave to others could have been used to strengthen your body, sharpen your mind, and deepen your spirit. The tragedy is that most people never realize this until it is too late. They spend decades burning themselves out in pursuit of recognition, only to discover that they never truly built themselves. Think of energy like water flowing through a channel. If you dig small holes in the side of the channel, each one representing a distraction, a critic, an unnecessary battle, the water leaks out. By the time it reaches the destination, it is nothing more than a trickle. But if you seal those holes, if you refuse to let your attention drain away, the water flows with power, carving valleys, shaping landscapes, and transforming everything in its path. Your energy works the same way. When it is preserved and directed, it becomes unstoppable. This is why the most powerful individuals often appear calm. They are not calm because life is easier for them. They are calm because they refuse to waste their strength on trivialities. They do not argue endlessly with those who misunderstand them. They do not chase after those who refuse to see their value. They know that every drop of energy must be guarded carefully because it is the fuel for their growth. And so they invest it where it matters, on themselves, on their vision, on their purpose. The mistake most people make is believing that energy is infinite. They wake up, give their best hours to jobs they hate, their best emotions to people who drain them, and their best thoughts to worries that will never matter. By the time they turn inward, they are empty. But energy is not infinite. It is limited, and what you give away is gone forever. To live wisely is to spend your energy deliberately, like a craftsman shaping a masterpiece. Every moment wasted on unnecessary drama is a stroke taken away from your own creation. Directing your energy toward yourself does not mean living selfishly. It means understanding that the better you become, the more value you can bring into the world. A strong tree provides shade. A weak tree collapses under its own weight. By focusing on your own growth, you create stability, strength, and wisdom that naturally extend to others. But if you continue to bleed energy into meaningless pursuits, you will have nothing left to give, not to yourself, not to others, not to life. Consider how much energy is lost through the need to explain yourself. Every explanation, every defense, every argument steals time and drains emotion. Imagine if you stopped explaining. Imagine if instead you used that same energy to learn, to build, to train, to create. In a single year, the difference would be astonishing. While others remain trapped in the cycle of proving themselves, you would emerge transformed, stronger, clearer, and far ahead of those still wasting themselves on noise. The beauty of conserving your energy is that growth becomes exponential. At first, the changes may be subtle. Greater clarity, deeper peace, sharper discipline. But as you continue to invest in yourself, your energy compounds and the results begin to multiply. The world notices. People wonder how you became so focused, so resilient, so unshakable. What they fail to realize is that it was not a secret formula. It was the simple decision to stop giving energy away. Energy is the foundation of everything: your health, your confidence, your creativity, your presence. If you waste it, you weaken all of these. If you guard it, you strengthen them. The choice is yours every day. Will you scatter your attention across the trivial, or will you gather it and direct it like a beam of light sharp enough to cut through anything? The truth is, life is too short to bleed energy into places where it will never return. Arguments will fade. Critics will forget. But the energy you waste on them is gone forever. Yet every ounce you invest in yourself remains with you. It grows, it strengthens, it compounds, and it shapes the person you are becoming. And when that person emerges, powerful and whole, the very people who drained you will be left wondering how you transformed. That is the art of energy investment. Guard it, direct it, pour it into yourself. For in the end, the one who wins is not the one who shouted the loudest or argued the longest, but the one who built themselves so completely that their very existence is proof enough. The art of detachment is one of the greatest strengths you can cultivate, because it frees you from the invisible chains that others try to wrap around you. Most people live trapped in a constant cycle of pleasing, explaining, and controlling, desperate to shape how others see them. They chase approval and fight endlessly against rejection, as if their very existence depends on the shifting moods of those around them. But the truth is, the moment you let go of this need, the moment you release the compulsion to manage their perception of you, you step into a freedom that few will ever know. Detachment does not mean that you stop caring about people or withdraw from life. It means that you stop being controlled by what you cannot control. It is the decision to no longer let external opinions define your inner peace. Detachment is powerful because it shifts the center of your life from outside to inside. As long as you're attached to how others see you, you live at their mercy. A compliment can lift you, but a criticism can shatter you. A nod of approval makes you feel worthy, but a glance of disapproval makes you doubt yourself. You become like a leaf blown in every direction by the winds of their judgment. But detachment grounds you. It makes you the tree, not the leaf. It allows you to stand tall regardless of the weather. Because your roots are deep within yourself, when you practice detachment, you no longer need to explain yourself endlessly. You no longer feel the urge to prove your worth to those who have already decided not to see it. You stop chasing after people who misunderstand you because you realize their perception is not your responsibility. You are not here to convince them. You are here to live authentically. And once you embrace that, their opinions lose their grip on you. You begin to understand that what they think of you says more about them than it does about you. Detachment also brings clarity. When you are entangled in the need for validation, your decisions are clouded. You choose not from inner conviction, but from fear of disapproval. But when you release that attachment, your path becomes clearer. You can finally ask yourself, what do I truly want? What aligns with my deepest values? Instead of being pulled in 1,000 directions by other people's expectations, you begin to walk a path that is truly yours. And that path, though often lonelier, carries the greatest power because it is authentic. Another strength of detachment is that it unsettles those who try to control you. People often expect you to react, to defend, to argue, to justify. But when you respond with silence, with calm detachment, you deny them the reaction they seek. Your lack of entanglement becomes your shield. Their words bounce off, their manipulations lose effect, and their control dissolves. You show them, without saying a word, that your inner peace is no longer up for negotiation. That kind of calm strength is unshakable. Detachment also allows you to conserve energy. Consider how much time is wasted on arguments that lead nowhere, explanations that change nothing, and efforts to please people who will never be satisfied. All of that energy could have been invested in building yourself, in pursuing your vision, in deepening your peace. When you detach, you reclaim that energy. You redirect it from the outside world to your inner world, and in doing so, you begin to grow at a pace that surprises even you. Others are left wondering how you became so calm, so focused, so unbothered, not realizing that it was the art of detachment that set you free. But detachment does not mean indifference. It does not mean that you harden your heart or close yourself off from love and connection. True detachment is the ability to love deeply without being enslaved by the fear of loss, to give your best without being destroyed if it is not appreciated, to walk alongside others without losing your own direction. It is the balance of caring without clinging, of giving without begging, of engaging without being consumed. That balance is where true freedom is found. Life becomes lighter when you detach. You stop carrying the heavy weight of everyone's expectations. You stop drowning in the need to control how every story about you unfolds. You realize that people will always talk, always judge, always misunderstand. But that is their story, not yours. Your story is written in your actions, in your growth, in your authenticity. And the more you detach from their noise, the more clearly your true self begins to shine. The art of detachment is not learned overnight. It is a practice, a daily decision to let go of what you cannot control and return to what you can, yourself. It takes courage to stop explaining, to walk away from validation, to live without the constant reassurance of others. But with that courage comes a quiet strength. And that strength, once cultivated, becomes unbreakable. Detachment is not about losing. It is about gaining. It is about gaining freedom from fear, clarity of purpose, and peace of mind. It is about standing firmly in your own truth, unmoved by the shifting tides of opinion. It is about becoming so rooted in yourself that nothing external can shake you. And when you reach that state, you will realize something profound. The less you cling, the stronger you stand. Transformation in solitude is one of the most profound experiences a person can undergo, yet it is also one of the least celebrated. In a world that glorifies constant connection, noise, and visibility, solitude is often misunderstood as loneliness or weakness. But solitude is not about being cut off from others. It is about returning to yourself. It is about creating the space where growth can happen quietly, free from distractions, and free from the weight of expectations. True transformation does not always happen in the spotlight. It happens in the shadows, in the silence, when no one is watching. Most people are terrified of solitude because it forces them to face themselves. They fear the silence because in silence the illusions fade. Distractions disappear, masks fall away, and what is left is the raw, unfiltered truth of who they are. But that is exactly why solitude is so powerful. In that stillness, you confront your fears, your insecurities, your doubts. You come face to face with the parts of yourself you have avoided for years. And it is in that confrontation that transformation begins. You cannot heal what you refuse to see, and you cannot grow if you are always running from yourself. When you choose solitude, you choose to invest in yourself without interruption. You begin to redirect the energy once spent on pleasing others into building your own foundation. The hours you once wasted on validation or distraction become hours of self-reflection, discipline, and creation. You discover what you truly value, what truly drives you, and what you must let go of to become the person you are meant to be. This kind of growth is rarely noticed at first. It happens quietly beneath the surface, like a seed taking root in the dark. But eventually it breaks through, undeniable and unshakable, surprising everyone who doubted you. Transformation in solitude also teaches patience. In a world addicted to speed and instant gratification, solitude slows you down. It shows you that growth is not a sudden leap, but a steady unfolding. Like the tide shaping the shore or the mountain rising over centuries, true transformation takes time. Solitude trains you to trust the process, to stop forcing outcomes, and to surrender to the rhythm of growth. That patience becomes part of your strength, because once you have endured the silence, you can endure anything. There is also clarity in solitude that cannot be found in noise. Surrounded by the voices of others, it is easy to lose sight of your own. You absorb their doubts, their judgments, their expectations, until you no longer know what you truly think or feel. Solitude clears that away. It is the space where your own voice becomes louder, where your intuition grows sharper, where your vision becomes clearer. In solitude, you stop being pulled in 1,000 directions and instead align with your true path. That clarity is a gift few people ever allow themselves to receive, because they are too afraid to be still long enough to find it. Transformation in solitude is not just about internal change, it also alters how you move in the world. When you emerge from solitude, you carry a presence that others cannot explain. People will notice a difference in you. An unshakable calm, a quiet confidence, a strength that does not need to announce itself. They will wonder where it came from, not realizing that it was forged in the silence they themselves avoid. What they see is the result, but what they do not see is the countless hours you spent alone, reflecting, healing, and building yourself. Of course, solitude is not easy. It strips away distractions and forces you to sit with discomfort. There will be moments when you feel restless, moments when you doubt whether the isolation is worth it, moments when you long to escape back into the noise. But it is precisely in those moments of discomfort that transformation happens. Growth is never born from ease. It comes from friction, from tension, from being forced to break old patterns. Solitude provides that friction. It makes you strong enough to face yourself and disciplined enough to change. The beauty of solitude is that it also reveals how little you truly need. Surrounded by others, it is easy to believe that your worth is tied to their presence, their approval, their attention. But when you spend time alone, you realize that your peace, your strength, your joy are not dependent on anyone else. You carry them within you. That realization is one of the greatest transformations solitude can bring, because it makes you self-reliant. It allows you to engage with others not out of need, but out of choice. You are no longer clinging. You are simply sharing from a place of wholeness. Transformation in solitude is sacred because it prepares you for the world. It sharpens you, strengthens you, and grounds you. It gives you the tools to navigate chaos without losing yourself, to face rejection without breaking, to move through life with clarity and peace. When you return from solitude, you are not the same as when you entered. You carry within you a depth that cannot be shaken by noise, a strength that cannot be diminished by doubt, and a clarity that cannot be clouded by distractions. Solitude is not the absence of connection, but the foundation of it. By transforming yourself in solitude, you become capable of deeper connections, greater purpose, and stronger presence. You no longer enter relationships or pursuits from a place of emptiness, but from wholeness. And that wholeness is what others will feel when they encounter you. They will sense the transformation, even if they cannot name it. And while they wonder how you became so strong, you will know the truth. It was in the quiet, in the solitude, that you found yourself. The greatest strength a person can ever cultivate is the ability to remain calm in the midst of storms. Life is full of noise, conflict, and endless distractions that pull at your energy and attention. Everywhere you look, people are reacting, snapping back when insulted, lashing out when misunderstood, breaking down when criticized. But the one who learns the art of silence, the one who does not rush to defend, explain, or prove themselves, carries a power that others cannot comprehend. Silence is not weakness. Silence is restraint, clarity, and control. It is the discipline to understand that not every action deserves a reaction, and not every voice needs a reply. Most people confuse silence with passivity. They think staying quiet means surrendering or admitting defeat. But silence, when chosen consciously, is one of the strongest responses you can give. It disarms people who expect conflict. It unsettles those who want to provoke you. It protects your energy from being wasted on pointless battles. Silence is not about letting others win. It is about choosing which battles are worth fighting, and more importantly, which are not. By remaining silent, you refuse to give your power away. When you respond to everything, you scatter your strength. Your emotions get hijacked by other people's opinions, moods, and behaviors. But when you remain silent, you remain in control of yourself. You are no longer dictated by external forces. Instead, you dictate the terms of your energy and focus. Silence gives you the space to observe, to process, and to choose your response wisely. And often, the wisest response is none at all. Letting others drown in the noise of their own words is far more effective than joining them in it. Silence also has a way of exposing truth. When you stop defending yourself against lies or criticism, people eventually see reality for what it is. Words lose their weight when they are not fed with reactions. In fact, silence often speaks louder than explanations ever could. It communicates confidence, self-respect, and a refusal to be dragged into petty conflicts. The one who stays silent in the face of noise is the one who knows their worth. They don't need to explain it, prove it, or beg for it to be acknowledged. Another power of silence is the ability to confuse those who wish to control you. People who thrive on manipulation, drama, or conflict expect you to react. They feed on your energy. The moment you deny them that, they lose control. Your silence forces them to sit with their own actions. It creates discomfort they cannot escape. In that silence, they reveal themselves more clearly than they ever would in an argument. Silence is the mirror that reflects others back to themselves. But silence is not only about withholding words, It is also about cultivating inner stillness. You may remain quiet outwardly, but still be boiling inside, rehearsing responses in your mind, reliving arguments, or planning comebacks. True silence is deeper than that. It is the discipline of quieting your inner world, of refusing to let external chaos take root within you. When you practice this kind of silence, you develop a calmness that cannot be shaken. People sense it in your presence, a stability, an unshakable center. That is real power, because nothing external can disturb the one who has mastered inner silence. There will be times when silence feels difficult. You may feel an urge to defend your reputation, to prove your point, to correct someone's misunderstanding. But the truth is, people will believe what they want to believe. Explanations rarely change their minds. The more you speak, the more you fuel their perceptions. Silence, however, starves them. It gives them nothing to hold on to, nothing to twist, nothing to use against you. Over time, your actions, your consistency, and your results will speak louder than any defense ever could. Silence also teaches humility. It reminds you that you don't need to have the last word, you don't need to win every argument, and you don't need to convince everyone of your value. You already know your worth. You already know your truth, and that is enough. The need to constantly prove yourself is born from insecurity. Silence, on the other hand, is born from confidence. It is the quiet assurance that time will reveal what words cannot. In practicing silence, you also learn patience. Not everything needs to be addressed immediately. Not every insult needs a response. Sometimes the best thing you can do is wait. Wait for the storm to pass. Wait for the truth to surface. Wait for the right moment to act. Silence gives you the distance to see more clearly, to respond with wisdom instead of impulse. And often, by the time you are ready to respond, you realize that you no longer need to. The issue has already dissolved on its own. Silence is not about cutting yourself off from expression. It is about choosing intentional expression. When you do speak, your words carry more weight because they are not constant noise. People listen more closely to the one who rarely speaks because they know that silence has given their words depth. That is the paradox of silence. The less you use your voice, the more powerful it becomes. Silence is about self-mastery. It is about choosing peace over conflict, clarity over chaos, strength over reaction. It is about protecting your energy, valuing your time, and refusing to let others dictate your emotions. When you learn the art of silence, you no longer waste yourself on battles that don't matter. You rise above the noise, grounded and unshakable. Others will try to provoke you, but you will smile in silence. They will try to drag you into their storms, but you will remain calm in your stillness. And that calm, that silence, will become your greatest weapon. There is a certain kind of power that needs no introduction, no announcement, no declaration. It is the power of results. You can argue endlessly with someone about your abilities, your worth, or your potential, but words rarely move people. What truly silences doubt and criticism is evidence, tangible proof in the form of transformation, success, and growth that cannot be denied. The shock of results is far greater than the noise of explanations. When you commit yourself to growth in silence, when you pour your energy into discipline, instead of defending yourself, the day will come when your progress speaks louder than anything you could have ever said. And in that moment, those who doubted you, mocked you, or ignored you will have no choice but to notice. Results carry a language of their own. You don't need to tell people you've changed. They will see it. You don't need to announce that you're working hard. The results will reveal it. You don't need to prove your strength. Your achievements will do it for you. There is a quiet satisfaction in watching people's expressions shift when they realize the person they underestimated is no longer the same. This is not about revenge. It is about validation through reality, not words. Reality cannot be denied, and results are reality in its clearest form. The shock of results is so powerful because it disrupts expectations. People often build an image of you based on who you used to be. Your mistakes, your failures, your weaknesses. They assume you will always remain at that level. So when you rise in silence, when you invest in yourself without seeking attention, you dismantle their assumptions in the most unexpected way. Results force them to reframe who you are in their minds, because they cannot argue with what stands before them. The very silence that kept them wondering is the same silence that prepares the stage for your results to make the loudest statement of all. But this shock doesn't come overnight. It is born from countless unseen efforts, late nights, quiet sacrifices, the discipline of doing the work when no one is watching. The world only ever sees the tip of the iceberg. They don't see the depth beneath the surface, the weight of hours, the repetition, the failures, and the persistence. That is why results are so shocking to others. They didn't witness the process. They only see the outcome, and it looks sudden to them, almost miraculous. Yet you know the truth. You know the nights you kept going when quitting seemed easier, the mornings you forced yourself to rise when comfort tempted you to stay down. The shock is theirs. The journey was yours. When you allow results to speak for you, you also liberate yourself from the exhausting need to explain your path. You no longer need to defend your choices, your goals, or your silence. You no longer owe anyone explanations for why you disappeared into your own world of growth. The results justify the absence, the focus, the distance. People who once doubted you begin to respect you without you ever demanding it. People who once questioned you start to believe without you ever convincing them. That is the beauty of results. They speak in a voice no critic can silence. The shock of results also humbles those who underestimated you. There is a quiet kind of justice in watching the shift from mockery to respect, from doubt to admiration. And yet, the purpose is not to humiliate others. The purpose is to stay rooted in your own lane, so focused on growth that when the time comes, your results are undeniable. Let others gossip, question, or assume. That is their distraction. You, on the other hand, are building, and builders do not waste time shouting about blueprints. They let the finished structure stand as proof. What makes the shock of results even more powerful is the silence before it. If you spend your time announcing every step, every plan, every move, the impact of your results is lessened. People grow accustomed to hearing about your progress, and they expect it. But if you remain quiet, if you let them believe nothing is happening, the contrast becomes striking. Out of nowhere, in their eyes, you arrive transformed. You step into rooms they thought you'd never reach. You achieve goals they thought were impossible. And you embody strength they never associated with you. That sudden revelation is unforgettable. This is why focusing on yourself is essential. If you spend your energy trying to make people notice you, you waste it. But if you channel that energy into consistent, deliberate action, the results accumulate silently until one day they are too large to be ignored. That is when the silence ends. Not with words, but with undeniable proof. It is the kind of ending no one can argue with because it doesn't rely on opinion, only on fact. The shock of results is also deeply personal. It's not only about what others see, it's about what you know within yourself. The moment you achieve something you once doubted, the moment you step into a version of yourself you once thought impossible, you shock yourself as much as anyone else. And that shock is empowering. It becomes fuel, reminding you that you are capable of more than you imagined, and that the opinions of others are irrelevant in comparison to what you have proven to yourself. Remain silent. Keep building. Stay disciplined in your focus. Let the noise around you continue, but don't join it. Instead, let the day come when your results arrive with such clarity and force that they silence every doubt, every critic, every unnecessary question. Let your life become the statement you never had to make. Because in the end, there is nothing louder, nothing more humbling, and nothing more unforgettable than the shock of results. To live as the question rather than the answer is to embrace a life of depth and mystery. Most people spend their lives trying to explain themselves and defend themselves and present themselves in ways that satisfy the expectations of others. They crave certainty. So they rush to offer definitions. This is who I am. This is what I do. This is where I am going. But in that rush, they often lose the very essence of life's richness. They trap themselves in fixed identities and predictable paths, leaving no room for wonder. When you focus on yourself, when you cultivate growth in silence, you step away from this need to declare answers. You allow your life to unfold like a question, open, evolving, and intriguing. And in that openness, people cannot help but wonder about you. Mystery has always carried power. The less people know about you, the more they want to know. When you do not explain every choice, every action, every thought, you create space for curiosity. People lean in trying to piece together who you are becoming, but they can never quite pin you down. That uncertainty unsettles them because human beings crave definitions. They want to put you in a box, to label you, to understand you in simple terms. But when you live as a question, you deny them that simplicity. You become someone they cannot categorize, someone who always seems to be more than what meets the eye. To live this way requires confidence. It means being comfortable with not being fully understood. It means resisting the urge to explain yourself every time someone demands clarity. It means letting your journey speak for itself rather than narrating it at every stage. And though it may feel uncomfortable at first, this mystery gives you strength, because when people cannot predict your next step, they cannot control you. When they cannot define you, they cannot confine you. When they cannot read you, they cannot confine you. When they cannot read you, they cannot reduce you. Living as the question keeps you free. Think of the people in history or in your own life who have left the greatest impression. Rarely were they the ones who explained everything about themselves. Instead, they carried an aura of mystery. They revealed themselves slowly through their actions, through their presence, through their results. That is why they remain memorable. They did not hand out answers. They invited questions. Their lives pulled others into curiosity, into wonder, into respect. You can cultivate that same presence by choosing to focus inward instead of seeking outward approval. Living as the question also means embracing the unknown within yourself. You don't need to have all the answers about where your path is leading. You don't need to define exactly who you are becoming. Growth is not about having a final, polished identity. It is about constant transformation. When you accept this, you stop rushing to prove yourself and instead enjoy the process of unfolding. Others may be desperate for certainty, but you remain comfortable in the mystery. You understand that life is richer when you allow it to surprise you, when you allow yourself to evolve beyond the definitions of today. This approach also shifts the power dynamic in your relationships. When you are always the one explaining yourself, justifying yourself, or proving yourself, you give your power away. But when you choose silence, when you allow others to wonder, you reclaim that power. You place yourself in the position of the unknown, and the unknown always commands attention. People respect what they cannot easily grasp. They fear what they cannot fully predict. And they admire what they cannot completely understand. Mystery draws people in far more effectively than constant explanation ever could. Living as the question is not about manipulation. It is not about hiding or deceiving. It is about authenticity. Choosing to be fully yourself without feeling the need to broadcast every detail. It is about living deeply enough that no simple explanation can capture you. It is about allowing your actions, your presence, and your growth to reveal themselves gradually in ways that words never could. When you embody this, people sense something profound in you. They may not be able to explain it, but they feel it. And that feeling lingers. There will always be pressure to provide answers. People will demand to know what you are doing, where you are heading, what your plan is. But you are not obligated to satisfy their curiosity. In fact, The less you reveal, the more powerful your path becomes. Your silence protects you, your focus strengthens you, and your results eventually reveal enough to silence doubt. Until then, let them wonder, let them question, let them speculate. While they are busy trying to figure you out, you are busy becoming more than they could ever imagine. To live as the question is to embody depth. It is to carry yourself in a way that makes people feel there is always more to you than they can see. It is to remain open, evolving, unpredictable, and free. It is the choice to stop living for explanations and start living for transformation. And when you live this way, you will find that the world cannot help but be drawn to your mystery. They will keep watching, keep wondering, keep asking, who are you becoming? And the beauty is, you don't need to answer, because the truest answer will always be in the life you live, not the words you speak. At the heart of it all, life is not about convincing others, proving yourself, or begging for recognition. It is about turning inward, mastering yourself, and letting your growth speak in silence. When you focus on yourself, you rise above the noise. When you stop chasing validation, you reclaim your freedom. When you live with mystery, you keep others wondering, unable to pin you down or limit your becoming. The world expects explanations, but explanations are cheap. What is rare, what is unforgettable, is transformation. True power is quiet. It is the calm of self-focus, the discipline of detachment, the strength of silence, and the shock of undeniable results. People will talk, they will doubt, they will question. But in the end, they will watch as you grow beyond their imagination. Choose yourself. Work in silence. Let your actions thunder louder than your words ever could. And as you rise, let them wonder. For wonder is the greatest tribute they can give, and silence is the greatest weapon you can carry.